What's up? What's up? What's up? How you guys doing out there? Welcome to this beautiful Sunday morning here on the East Coast. Welcome to Funk Music with Zack, brought to you on IBMTV.tv. Mad shouts out to everybody. Peace, love, and harmony. How you guys doing? It's another week in the world. Some of you guys are watching. It's night where you are, so God bless you. Those of you on the West Coast, I know it's a bit early. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please follow me on all the social media platforms, and let's try to do some good, spread some peace, love, and harmony. Today on Funk Music with Zack, I wanted to talk a little bit about, it's a day of reflection. That's why you didn't hear me come on super hot, although I might still, who knows. It's a day of reflection, with it being Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. I'm just going to call it that because nowadays I don't know which day is what anymore. I just know that's what's happening. It's trending, and it shouldn't even be a topic that trends or anything. It should be about what this man stood for. And I know, athletes and, sporting venues make it popular because people go watch a basketball game in honor of, black athletes playing basketball and sports and all of that. And I get all that. I'm all for anything that's positive. So I'm cool with that. But let's recognize the man today on this show for what he is, what he did, what he stood for, and things like that. First of all, let's get to some shout outs. Man, shout out to Kim. I know you're in the hospital or you home. I'm not sure, but I hope you're feeling better, and prayers and thoughts are with you. So you're gonna get this thing figured out and everything will be cool. And I know we lost a member of the IBM TV.tv family. There was a memorial tribute for this gentleman. He's one of the founders. So to that gentleman and his family, appreciate what you did, and you're probably in a better place now. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that to be cruel or anything. I've lost a lot of people, but sometimes you just look around, you're like, what's the point? So those two shout outs go right away. And then, of course, my guy, Dr. Brookenstein up in Philly, holding down a nappy head funk army, treasure trove of website, plethora information, a plethora of stuff, Dr. Brookenstein does for the Nappyhead Funk Army and has been for many, many years. And we appreciate you, Doc. This cup of tea is for you. Yeah, man. So thank you, David, Dr. Brookenstein. He's an amazing, person and a good human being. And I love you too, David. Thank you, man. Happy birthday, man. So, you enjoy, and, you're born around royalty, bro. You're born around Martin Luther King Day. So that makes you in that stratosphere. You know what I mean? So kudos, and God bless you, man, and appreciate you, man. Linda Scheider, obviously, P-Funk Hall of Famer guitarist Gary Scheider, and, all the Scheiders, Garrett and Tim and everybody that ever met that was a Scheider. Linda, obviously, the main hub of that. Happy birthday, Linda Scheider. If you're out there, know that I love you. And Linda Scheider is going to be on the show, I believe on the 30th, right, Mark? Yeah, I think she's on the 30th. So, yeah. So happy birthday, Linda. One nation under a groove. Yeah, that's for you, Linda. And, of course, Gary. Who wrote it? So yeah, that's cool. So if you have a besides the birthdays I mentioned, just know that I know it's hard. We haven't been able to really do much this year in terms of celebrating very much. We try and we go on, and as Americans and human beings, we try to forge through and let's push through it. And, we're going to get through it. But, everybody is not processing everything the same way. So what we really have to learn and what we have to understand is when we approach someone, or me or you or all my fans out there watching, whatever, and fans of this show, you know, and StreamYard and everything, what you have to really understand is just be kind, you know, and approach people. Don't come in hot. You know, unless you know, doing a sporting event or music event. Yeah, it's cool to come in hot, but you know, don't come in so hot on people, man, because you just never know what people are going through, you know. And the reason I say that is because one of the most kindest men I know, my man Mark Lee, right here on the other side of me behind the glass. Thank you, Mark, for doing everything that you do. You know, this brother never comes in hot, and I always appreciate that. You know, every time I've seen him interact with anybody, he's always peaceful and loving, and you know, tries to keep it, you know, to a mellow type thing. So you know, that's a good lesson that people could learn from you, Mark, out there, including myself sometimes. But although I'm Aries on fire, sometimes I can't help but come in hot because that's just what we do. But you know, that's one of my goals this year. You know, as we all self-evaluate and work on ourselves, and COVID gives us a chance to look within and dig deep, you know, I had an amazing guest on my other network yesterday, you know, Chrissy Key Rollins, and she said some really profound things, and she's always there to charge me up. So thank you, Chrissy, for yesterday. So let's get to IBM. A lot of good things are happening on this network. You know, a lot of people are joining. There's new shows, and kudos and shout out Dr. Tawana Anthony, you know, got her thing off, and I'm proud of you, Dr. Tawana Anthony. I miss you, and I know you're busy. She's a teacher. She's an author. You know, she travels back and forth, you know, always traveling. She's such a kind-hearted person, and here is her book, you know, At the Gate of Park. And you can always find her all over social media, and she's doing a lot of great things along with other people at IBM, you know. And, you know, it's pretty cool to have a platform and to be able to, you know, talk about things and evaluate things and try to help people. Basically, that's what this all should be about, is helping someone else. So, you know, another shout out to Ann Kit and Wynn and, you know, Nick and everybody that's trying to, you know, do the best they can and plod through. You know, I heard good things about the Lawyer's Den. Success for that, pushing you guys up, you know, wishing you all the best for that. And, you know, Bill Tresvant and, you know, all the good things that he's doing, you know. Proud of you, Bill. Your Buffalo Bills won, so that's cool. I know you're happy about that, you know. So kudos also to Bootsy Collins and Peppermint Patty. The AARP of Cincinnati honored Bootsy Collins this past Friday in a very moving, loving, beautiful tribute, you know, to honor him and all the hard work he's done and the charitable things that he does and has been doing for many, many years. Peppermint Patty and Bootsy are all over the place helping people out, and the Music Cares Foundation. And you can go to www.thebootcave.com and check that out. And, you know, all the great things that they do, and in their hometown, especially lifting it up and working with kids and working with musicians there and working with the homeless shelters and the soup kitchens. Yo, it was amazing, you know, and I knew all this anyway, just from following Bootsy and Peppermint Patty over the years. Besides the music, I'm talking about the offstage stuff, you know. So Bootsy, well-deserved honor. Congrats, you know, you deserve it. Peppermint Patty, you deserve it, you know, and it's great. And plus, I'm a funk ambassador, so boom, you know, I'm going to shout out my fam. That's what's up. So check this out. Brenda Woods, hi. If you're watching out there, if not, you can catch your reruns. You know, hope all is well with you and all that good stuff. So I know you're very excited, Brenda, because you have something in common with Kamala Harris. So, you know, I know y'all are in the same, you know, kind of fraternity thing. So, you know, that's all cool. Yeah, so that's kind of cool, you know. So, yeah, Martin Luther King Jr., some of the reflections before we get into the I Have a Dream meaning as far as what it means to me. And again, this is just me, you know. Before we do that, though, if you have a birthday anniversary, just know that I care. I love you. If you're feeling some kind of way and, you just need uplifting, just hit me up. We'll always do our best to uplift everybody, that watches this show, that comes on this show, that follows the show, that supports the show. We're all here to lift each other up, especially us Funketeers and us P-Funk soldiers and us True Funk soldiers and us Nappy Head Funk Army soldiers. We're soldiers for the funk, but the funk is more than just the word funk music. It's more than that. Club Funkerton Bass, what's up, Tony Tone? It's more than just that. It's a way of life. It's a feeling. It's a camaraderie. It's a family. It's a grind together. Like, hey, we're going to get over this thing. A lot of the lyrics and the music that comes from that are, it's very, very cool to listen to the lyrics sometimes of the P-Funk, of Bootsy Collins, all the groups, Quasar, Bertie Worrell, all of them, man. They always had a positive light. And I know people don't really remember Quasar, but you need to go back and look that brother up, Glenn Goins. He was a P-Funk guitarist and vocalist. And, my God, he was amazing. The voice of thunder, you know what I mean? I met his brother Kevin a few times. And, what's up, Kev, if you're watching? How you doing? Love you, bro. But yeah, Glenn Goins was amazing. Quasar, they had that couple of albums out, and it was really cool. Some of the stuff that he was singing about, he was taking it to another spiritual funk level. Same with Bootsy, same with George Clinton. A lot of the stuff they did, people really just kind of didn't really catch the lyrics until maybe years later. But funkheads, we always knew what they was doing. So, yeah, when you listen to and you think about funk and you understand what it really is about, it's about peace, love, unity, and harmony. And that music always brings you together. You would never see any wildness, fights, or gunshots, and none of that stuff. I mean, not that I ever saw at a P-Funk concert. Never, ever, never. It just didn't happen that way. It wasn't set up that way. The music doesn't make you feel that way. It didn't make you go after somebody. It only made you hug somebody and smoke a joint with them. You know what I mean? So it's not really, it was never really about none of that stuff that I see some of the music and some of the vibes in that music drives you to. It kind of makes you feel some kind of way. Good, bad, or indifferent, that's what it does. I'm not telling no lies here. I'm just saying what people already know. So, the funk thing, it was always about that. And I kind of always felt that because of a significant album called Chocolate City, which blew my mind because I was like, are they allowed to do that? As a kid, you don't know the rules. So when you see stuff for the first time, you're like, are they allowed to do that? But George Clinton, to his genius, GC, shout out. What's up, bro? Woof, 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 dog. To his genius, he saw what was, and, America Eats Its Young and all that stuff, right? So that stuff, those album covers used to teach us. They were history for us. We would sit around and we would understand and listen to the lyrics, and just the title song, What's Happening, CC? They say you jive and game and can't be changed. But on the positive side, you're my piece of the rock, and I love you, CC. When I heard that, I was like, whoa. Is he quoting like insurance? Is he quoting this brother's just like out there on some stuff, man. You know what I'm saying? So, and when he gets into the part about, Richard Pryor, Minister of Education, Stevie Wonder, Secretary of Fine Arts, and Miss Aretha Franklin, the First Lady. Are you out there, CC? And as somebody from New York, I knew what CC was. I knew it was Chocolate City. I knew DC was called Chocolate City. You don't need the bullet when you got the ballot. Are you up for the downstroke, CC? So he was quoting stuff from other albums as well as talking about pertinent information. And George, you're a genius for that. Let me tell you, you're a genius. You changed my life. I got to tell you that. In so many ways, he changed my life in so many ways, all right? But don't think I ain't never remembered everything you taught me, because I do. Just need a chance to play it now. But anyway, yeah, man. So, that around the time that stuff was coming out and, Martin Luther King had already been assassinated was deep. Okay. It was deep. It was like, and I Have a Dream speech, which was actually August 28th, 1963. I think I was 5 years old. I was 5. Okay. And I didn't know anything about it until, I would see grown-ups sitting around talking about the movement, and you hear this word. And, since my dad was a minister and he was a Mason and he was a member of the NAACP and all of that other stuff, you would hear the words, but you would never, ever understand fully, because to you as a kid, you were just a black kid. It didn't matter. Words weren't going to change that. So you just were happy being in your skin. And it was some of the happiest times of my life, frolicking, running around, so little did I know on this side was the turmoil. Little did I know that. Little did I know, like right there on the outside of the door, on the other side, was all of this stuff happening, So, Martin Luther King Jr. was a prophet, a hero, probably would have been the first black president, had times been different. He inspired so many people. And he made life a little bit more tolerable. And again, nothing should be tolerated. But we were in such a bad state as Native Americans, blacks, poor Hispanics, we just wanted things to be tolerable. Now imagine that. Okay, everybody else is here and you not even on the playing field. You just trying to get to be tolerable. So people feel the need to tolerate your presence just by breathing the same air. You know what I'm saying? So it was deep. It was a learning experience that as an Afro-American, you never really get over, because you realize early on, hey, things are not the same. I can say Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and sing, My Country, 'Tis of Thee, and all this other stuff, Sweet Land of Liberty. But, I ain't really seeing that, And as you get a little bit older, you start talking to a lot of the older brothers and sisters, and they were, dealing with, their finding their voice, whether it be the Vietnam War, whether it be BOSS, Black Organization for Student Scholarships, which was one of the programs at Bayshore High School that I'll never forget. I didn't get a scholarship, but I'll never forget that organization because I just remember the name BOSS, Black Organization for Student Scholarships. And, little things like that. And then, we're wearing our red, black, and green, not really sure what it meant, but all we knew is we saw older people doing it. So as a young person, especially a musician, that's what we were going to do. And then we had our afros and, so it's weird because looking back now to this day, going through all of that, going back now, I'm like, wow, am I like 5 years old again? Because now it's like, take a deep breath, breathe in and out. It's going to be all right. We shall overcome, And I kind of think Martin would be very, very disappointed right now. I mean, he would be disappointed to the max. He would be, because nothing really has changed, even though some things have changed. But yes, on the surface, but when it comes down to the masses, everybody says change takes time. I even heard Barack say that, right? And it's funny because I was talking to Q yesterday about this, and they're like, hey, just live. But, it takes something to live. It takes a will, everything else is immaterial. It just takes, and I'm not talking if you're not healthy. I'm saying if you're healthy and you're trying to get up every day, you have to have the sheer willpower to get through some of this. So hopefully by watching shows like this, and here we are on IBMTV.tv, shout out to IBM.TV.tv dollar store, Lynn Shepard, and thank you. But here we are with platforms like this, and hopefully platforms like this will help, give you a little inspiration so you guys will feel the need to be motivated and you'll have the will, because we all have to help each other. It's a circle. We're bouncing off each other. We're just a biological speculation sitting here vibrating, and we don't know what we're vibrating about. But the animal instinct in me makes me want to defend me, makes me want to live when it's time to die. Y'all see my point. Funkadelic. All right? Again, George Clinton. So we need each other. We cannot do that. We have to do this. So I'm asking everybody every day going forward just to take 5 minutes for yourself and just send positive vibes out, pray, whatever your thing is, just take 5 minutes for yourself, send positive vibes out right now during the show. Take 5 minutes for yourself and just try to feel good about something inside. And don't worry about all of this other stuff, okay? Don't worry about all this other stuff, because that will inevitably take care of itself. So right now, again, shout out to my main man, my homie Mark Lee behind the glass. I'm going to ask Mark to pull up a segment of this I Have a Dream speech, because I think, people out there in the audience, we need to hear this again, including myself. So y'all hang out for a minute, sit back, relax, and let's enjoy. I'm going to sip on my tea, and we're going to remember this great man.
I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five years ago, the great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. And this momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that.
My name is Scott Harrison.
Just listen.
This is my wife, my son, and my one on the way.
The Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And so we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summit of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until that is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro has granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But that is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must be able to conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is they have come to realize their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. As we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied. As long as our body is heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the city. We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote, and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friend, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We'll hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one
Yo, that's some deep stuff, right?
exalted.
Some deep stuff, man. It's funny because sometimes when we're doing stuff on, and videos and music, sometimes we're chatting on the side too. And the first thing I thought about is how powerful that image is. And thank you, Mark, for that. And Mark is going to tell you a little history about that very same speech later on, today, where it originated from and so forth. So I'll save that for Mark. But I look at that, first of all, the words and the prophecy of it, whether it came true or not, it's all in the creator's time, I guess, or the universe or whatever thing runs the whole thing. It's so profound to look at that area, look out, over the pond and see all the people of all different colors, races, creeds, nationalities. And it was kind of like that, during the George Floyd protest and the Black Lives Matter movement this past year, last year. And I think to myself, this cycle that we continue to have to go through, as my guest was saying yesterday, Chrissy, it's just we got to go through it. But why? Sometimes you just want to ask yourself why. If this is our mission, are we failing this or are we succeeding? Are we bringing more people together or are we not? Those are questions for scholars far more educated than I. But I can only give my opinion. This is an opinionated show. So, it's bizarre to see barbed wire, and talk to my friends up in D.C. and see how it's set up now to where we can't even have one peaceful transitional day of unity. And we have basically a baboon's ass, doing all this other crazy stuff. Right. So I thought, as I'm watching this, and I've seen it many, many times, I was 10 when Martin Luther King got assassinated. So I remember the profound effect it had on everything. And here's a black man, so eloquently educated, speaking to all people about unite and be peaceful and come together and work together. Even though he's fighting for the oppressed, he's part of the oppressed group that's fighting, and yet he's encouraging all people. And then here we have, again, this other entity, El Diablo, and he is already born into white privilege with economic viability, and his only mission is to tear down white, black, Latino, Asian, Native American is his only mission. Why people continue to want to drink that Kool-Aid is not a question for me. Never will be, never was a question for me, nor will it ever will be. That's going to be a question for the universe to answer. And most of us already know. So the contrast, like, that was 1963. That was like 58 years ago, almost, the contrast of that powerful photo. And the photo you see today is eerily and very much so prophetic in two different ways. We get to see the very, very, very best of mankind. And now we have the very, very, very worst in our generation anyway. So yeah, how does that work is what I'm asking people. And if you have any comments, please drop a line and hit me on Facebook, because I know this subject will be talked about, spoke about, written about, dreamed about. People will sing songs about what's going on and what we just went through and stuff. So, again, thank you, Mark, for showing that clip, man. And I just thought about that, and I was writing down some things, whatever, did a wardrobe change, represent my Jets just for y'all. John Abraham, he was one of my favorite players. He got traded to Atlanta, and I was retired. But, I always liked him as a defensive end, and this is for all my New York fans. Hold it on this side. All my Jet fans up there, no, we coming. So, but anyway, yeah, it's so profound to understand and want to try to think about why, the where, the what, and don't drive yourself crazy. This is just for the purposes of your leisure time when you're not battling with COVID, dealing with no unemployment checks, trying to stand on food lines and feed your family, trying to understand if we're going to get any type of relief for you, for your business, for my business, all those other things, right? So just keep that in the back of your mind, so when you have a free spare second, you can really understand the visceral picture of what you just saw and what you're witnessing now. Okay, so that's something that was moving inside of me that I wanted to share with you, because it's very important. Now, my mom was a huge Mahalia Jackson fan, and I'm going to bring up Mark in 1 second. But before I do that, I'm just going to play a little bit of Mahalia Jackson for my mom, because, she loved Martin Luther King, and so did my dad, and they were both activists, Eastern Stars and Masons, heavily into the Baptist church, which explains why I'm so funky. Feel me? So yeah. So this is for my mom right here,
Take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. But through the storm,
Yeah, man, that's for you, Hetty. Love you. Yeah, that came to my mind, and my mother was a huge Mahalia Jackson fan, and she used to take me to the Apollo and to a lot of different places. But I actually got a chance to see Mahalia live when I was a kid. Before my mother died, I was like 5 years old. And I don't know where it was at. It wasn't at the Apollo, but it was somewhere in Harlem where Mahalia was performing. And I got a chance to go. And the woman, all of my mother and the stories were that she scared me, because when she belted out with that thunderous universal voice of hers, greatest gospel singer of all time, bar none. I love everybody else, but Mahalia, sorry. And she belted it out, and they told me I jumped into my mother's arms to cover my eyes for the rest of the show. But it was profound because I just remember my mother always talking about this woman. And, you grow up, you forget things, and, music comes out and it gets reproduced. And, I actually do have a few of Mahalia's things, and it's incredible, as well as a documentary about her. She's one of my inspirations as far as music goes. Yes, it's the P-Funk and all of that, but I was listening to stuff like that long before I ever even knew what P-Funk was. And, I know P-Funk was listening to stuff like that long before they even got into their thing. So, Mahalia, Hetty, I know y'all are up there. Mom, she can sing to you now forever. She's been going a while, and so have you. So I know y'all are up there making some music. I'm going to bring my man behind the scene, behind the glass, my brother from another mothership, Mr. Mark Lee, pop on with some reflections about MLK. Brother, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I was definitely checking out your reflections and everything, and I was actually thinking I was all of 1 year old when that speech was done and everything, because I was born in July, and I was actually stationed in, I wasn't stationed, but my dad was stationed in Turkey at that time, because I was literally shortly after I was born, and I was the firstborn. Mom went over and joined Dad in Istanbul, Turkey. So I was actually in Turkey during that time. But Dad and Mom would consider themselves activists and were definitely involved in the civil rights struggle. Actually, my brother, who was born 7 years after I was born, as they were creating a school with one of the political rivals, we'll say, of Martin Luther King, that being Malcolm X, because they were doing a Malcolm X school here in Durham, North Carolina. So they were having that going on. And Malik, my mom's water broke while they were doing the ribbon cutting. So she actually didn't get to that event because she had
even then you was a pain in the ass, right? Even then you was being a pain in the ass. Couldn't give your mother that one thing.
That was my brother that did that. I've said it was my brother.
Your brother. Okay. I thought it was you.
I was over there with, not getting the chance to really catch the speech because I was in Turkey. I'm sure there was some coverage of it. I was a little infant, but I'm sure Mom and Dad were definitely checking it out and watching it. I know that they went. Actually, I went with my dad to a memorial march for the MLK rally that was done I want to say it was 50 years later in D.C. So I remember me, my younger brother, and my dad, we all went up to D.C. for that rally that was in memorial of that speech. So that would have been like, I want to say it was maybe the speech was in 63. So I'm thinking it might have been 50 years after the speech or something like that. It might have been even 25 or 30 years. I don't remember the exact time frame, but I do remember we went up there, saw a lot of people that were gathering to honor that great legacy and to honor that great speech as it had happened many years back. And I think I had told you one time, and I know I've mentioned it on the show before, that thinking of reflections, that when I was a youngster getting into this whole journalism field, there was a journalism camp in UNC, so University of North Carolina, and they had people coming from all over the country, and they were having to write an essay based on one of Dr. King's famous speeches. That's how we actually got into the camp, and there were people from Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. I think there might have been a couple of other states incorporated, but like about 5 or 6 of the states surrounding North Carolina. And I remember we had to write about what we thought Dr. King's would be thinking about, where do we go from here, community or chaos, which was kind of his reflection even later than that speech. I think it was like around 67 or 68. And a lot of the issues that he was dealing with then, and this was, remember, in my high school year. So I think it was my going into my senior year, junior, going into senior year of high school, that we were reflecting on this and everything. And I remember writing that essay that I knew that he would be concerned about things going on with our police force. We heard him talk about the police force, even in the excerpt that we heard just now. I knew he'd be concerned about things dealing with our food injustices. I knew he'd be concerned about things dealing with our reaction to other countries and things of that nature. I knew that he would be concerned about the inequality in terms of economy between the races and things of that nature. And the scary thing is that I wrote that essay, like I said, I think it was 1979 that I wrote that essay. So 16 years after that speech was given. We're talking now, as you just pointed out, 58 years after that speech was given, and the points are still relevant. They're still scary that all of those issues are still out there that we're talking about even to this day. Some 58 years after that speech was done, there's still things that he was fighting for that we're still fighting for even to this day.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because you mentioned, and we're not that much difference in age. We're from the same generation. Our parents, and I guess every generation, and I know different biblical scholars and Nostradamus and anybody that has any prophetic gift, and I'm not just saying there's one because there is not, there's many, Bob Marley, anyone that has been telling us this, Jimi Hendrix, all of them, since the beginning of the whole thing of our lives. Our parents had that, like your grandparents, my grandparents had that real Jim Crow burden. Our parents had the burden of Jim Crow. You know what I'm saying? And now here we are, we're trying to uplift, fight off 400 and 500 years of stuff, fight off our own ignorance, because black on black crime, and we're going to do a whole show on that. And I plan a black on black crime show in the month of February. So for those of you that are out there watching, I'm really getting your ass about this. Black on black crime. I was saving it for Black History Month. I'm going to be doing a lot of things concerning, obviously my culture and just trying to understand what it is we're doing psychologically. But we're going to get into that in February. So stay tuned for that. You'll see it posted. And it's going to be on this show right here, Funk Music with Zack. But every generation has a thing. Like your grandfather, or maybe even, your older uncles might have fought in World War II or Vietnam or whatever. They come back, oppression, last to get this, last to get that. Now, here we are, 2020. And like you just said, we still have to push and fight our way through. Yeah. And then we see a display like what happened. And now all of a sudden everybody's up in arms because, hey, but I'm like, well, yo, where was this when, 3 Muslims just wanted to stand on the steps up there and then you surrounded the whole place? Where was this at, Breonna Taylor? Where was this at, George? Where was all of this stuff at over the years of just constant pounding and not understanding why people feel the way they do. Now, all of a sudden, we're supposed to drop everything. It's like, oh, well, I understand why these people feel like that. No, I don't give a shit at this point because you was never paying attention to how I felt. Now all of a sudden I got to pay attention. No, hey, over here, we were still ahead of the line. You know what I'm saying? So, and to understand what you said about your parents and your dad and you being you and your brother being military, kids and stuff, you grew up around different things. So it's not just the one thing. And it really boggles my mind how all of us together should be working for a better world. Not just a better Durham, a better North Carolina, a better East Coast, better West Coast, a better United States. No, we should be working for a better world. Because if I'm not mistaken, to quote what my kindergarten teacher told me, he's got the whole world in his hands.
Right.
First song I ever really remembered. Right? Now, I don't know. I may be wrong, but I think the lyrics say he's got the whole world in his hands. So let's look at the big picture. Yes, United States, where we're here fighting like ants, and they're fighting like ants over seas, whatever, right? But yo, bro, when are people going to actually wake up and elevate, man, and get it? You know, it drives me nuts that even on a Martin Luther King weekend day, this guy's like, I'm having a 21 gun salute. Look at me. Hey, oh, I want airplanes flying over. You know what I'm saying? Then we got the inauguration, and I'm like, no wonder everybody's out of their mind.
Well, he's not helping anything in the situation, everything. And like you said, we've got an inauguration that is definitely going to be a different inauguration than we've ever had before. As I was watching earlier on the news, everything is in a lockdown in D.C. I mean, they're doing military checkpoints in the District of Columbia, and they've already caught a couple of folks that were coming in with guns and things. Some of them tried to have like some creative excuses, like they had their right to carry the guns or they were doing security or a number of other things. But there are actually, I know one of them I heard he can't go into D.C. on Wednesday at all, or I don't think they expect him in any time in the near future because they caught him and all of that, and they're still catching the folks from the insurrection. So we've got all of this going on and everything. But at the same time, you know, one thing I will give Biden a lot of credit for is he's coming in with all guns blazing in the sense of like having an agenda and really tackling this agenda in a fine fashion and everything. He's already looking at some things that he wants to overturn in terms of like immigration rights and what Trump had done to some of our Latin brothers and sisters. He's definitely trying to get the vaccination out there and everything along those lines. And I didn't know whether you mentioned it earlier, but I understand you've got some good news in that relationship earlier today as well. So definitely that's always an amazing thing. And I know you wanted to give a shout out to the fine folks over there at our local facility.
Yeah. Yes, because Nicole over at Lincoln, you know, where I go with my doctor, you know, and I had got my COVID test, so I'm negative, which is good. It's my second test. I had one in August before my surgery last August, negative. So I'm negative. They don't consider what I do a position where I am essential. Although anyone that works for Uber, Lyft, and drives for a living, school bus, whatever, if you don't work for a private company, cab company, whatever, right, they consider you non-essential. So am I essential or am I non-essential? Be that as it may, for everybody out there, COVID test, negative, I'm good to go. I did, after my test this week, Mark will tell you, I isolated, didn't go out, whatever, did follow the rules, which I'm always trying to follow the rules. So I'm safe, good to go. So all you eligible ladies out there, I can date you now. I passed the both. I got A's.
By the way,
get lonely in the house.
David, by the way, said he can't wait for Biden to clean up this mess. He knows it will take a long, long time, and I agree with him that it will take a long, long time for the cleanup. You had earlier mentioned, and I was going to bring this up as well, that it was actually a speech where Mom lives at in Rocky Mountain. It was kind of the speech that led into the I Have a Dream speech.
Tell us about that.
Yes, it was a speech by Martin Luther King Jr. in Rocky Mount on November 27th, 1962. In that address, before 1,800 people in the gymnasium at Booker T. Washington High School, that building is presently a city recreation center gym. Dr. King used a number of expressions that made their way into the landmark speech at the Lincoln Memorial part of the March on Washington on August 28, 1963. In Rocky Mount, Dr. King began by noting that he had been in North Carolina many, many times, but that this was his first time in this section. He had already paid multiple visits to Durham and Raleigh. Now, near the close, he built toward these lines. I have a dream that one day here in Rocky Mount, the sons of former slaves and the son of former slave owners will meet at the table of brotherhood, knowing that one God brought man to the face of the earth. I have a dream tonight that one day my little daughter and my two sons will grow up in a world not conscious of the color of their skin, but only conscious of the fact that they are members of the human race. So definitely, it sounds like he definitely was doing a little bit of a search of all of that at that particular time and all of that. So definitely, he definitely thrilled the audience and got their attention when he did it in D.C., but it looks like he had an earlier moment of doing it at Rocky Mount in the year I was born, in 1962.
Well, there you go. You are a celebrity. You are a Lee. I can't even tell you all the Clout Mark guys. So Won't go there. That's a secret. But Mark got clout. Trust me. When something happens to me, I just say, hey, I'm Zack Lee. I'm a Lee. I get pulled over, I'm a Lee. Oh, go ahead, sir. Right away. You're a Lee. You good. Go to the supermarket, I'm a Lee. Oh, okay. You a Lee. You good. Love you, Mark. You're the man. You're the man.
We do not believe that at all. Keep telling folks that.
You're the man.
It's all about Zack's world. Zack is the one that everybody knows in New York. You know, he ran into like.
I'm going to change the name of the show to Funk Music with Mr. Lee.
No, it is Funk Music with Zack. And because Zack is the man. Zack is truly in charge. You know that
You know how much fun I've been having, though, since we've been doing this since May? Like, just the things that we've laughed about off camera, we can't even tell you. But the things that we talk about on camera, I'm hoping and praying they always make a difference. And I'm hoping and praying with a little humor. David Lee, yes, see? David Brooks, he wants to be a Lee. Yes, Brooks, you got it right. The Lee name, I'm telling you, get it. Everybody out there attaching yourselves. The whole world, we're going to attach ourselves to your mom.
Well, I'm gonna have a whole bunch of brothers and I'm gonna have a whole bunch of brothers and sisters in my
brothers, Jack, and don't hit the lotto, because you know I got proof. I got it right here on videotape.
Well, you know, that's what I was actually on a serious note. There was a woman recently who fortunately was involved in the whole COVID field and everything along that line that just won the $1 million and everything, and here in North Carolina. So I'm actually thinking that y'all are giving me a hard time, but I'm actually thinking that she's got all kinds of relatives that she did not know that she had right now. They are popping out of the woodwork left and right, even though we know that the lottery oftentimes will take their share of the money anyway. So even though it's $1 million, you're probably only going to get maybe about half of that, maybe something like that.
Just right here on this screen that you don't know about. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm one of them. If you're one, hey, I'm your long lost triple cousin from the other side. Your aunts, uncles, sisters, mothers, brothers, fathers, niece, his nephew. That's me. But yo, for real, man, like, you know, the fact that you know your dad and mom, you know, and they started a lot of great things as far as Black history in Durham, in North Carolina, not just in Durham, but in North Carolina. You know, they had radio stations. So tell us a little bit about what your mom and dad did, just a little bit, and then we're going to get out. I'm going to play a Dumpster Funk song when we hard out. Then we'll be back on the other side. So for y'all want to hang out with us. Mark's got some great stories. You know, we're going to talk about that and some of the things that his mom did and his dad did to help start the Black community in Black Wall Street right down here in North Carolina, in Durham, that y'all don't even know about. So you should look it up if you don't know. In addition to that, you know, Kim, I know you watch this. I hope you feel better. You know, get well soon. We miss you and try to get back and, you know, take care of yourself because we love you, miss you. To Nick and Kid, you know, Win and, you know, all the people at IBM and the family and, you know, we love you guys and thank you, you know, to the IBM TV Dollar Store, Lynn Shepard. I think I got everything covered. And don't forget, Mark Lee has his own shows, 2 of them. You know, on IBM TV, as well as Dr. Tawana Anthony. She has a brand new show that just started last week. So, you know, we're doing some good things over here. You know, Bill Tresvant, The Lawyer's Den, obviously, #1 rated show on IBM, blowing up. So that's really cool. So I'm proud of Bill for that. Thank you, Bill. So we're going to get out of here. We're going to do our roll call because Martin Luther King Jr. would not want us to do not our roll call. So Martin Luther King says we must do the roll call. And we're going to do it. And I want everybody to get up. That's what you got to do. Mark, yes, take us out with the theme. And I'm coming back with Dumpster Funk. And then we're going to get out of here. Love y'all.
We're going to get out of here with that theme and everything. And then you're going to come
back with Dumpster Funk. Yeah, I'm going to come back with Dumpster Funk for Martin. Yeah. Love y'all. It's been a great show. See you on the other side. Peace. Yeah, in honor of Bootsy Collins. You know, love this group. Go, call, where you at? New York, DC, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Strong Island, Staten Island, Minneapolis, Detroit, New Orleans, y'all.
If you ask me my name, I'll tell you the same.
Justice.
We're looking for truth.
Dumpster funk, y'all. I love it.
Justice.
California, Washington, Oregon, Utah, Nevada, Las Vegas, Ohio. Woo!
Somebody's powerful, somebody's tasty. This one, that one, another one. We are
Philadelphia.
Let's face it.
Happy birthday, Brooke. Everybody get up in your house. Come on. Let's go. Come on. Justice.
We're looking for truth, the same old you.
Justice. Come on. Australia. Where you at, Carmen? Where you at, Wendy? Yeah.
Justice.
Germany. Candy, I love you. Love you. International peace banging. Steady groove, I love you. Bootsy Collins, congratulations, brother. Love you, Peppermint Patty. Woo! P-Funk Radio, where you at? Get on the funk bus, Louisville, where you at?
This one, that one, the other one. We all look beautiful. Let's face it. We can change it. Guys, in my name, I'll tell you the same. Just good. We're looking for truth, the same old you. Just good. Let's make up our mind. We don't have much time. Just good. There's no one to blame. We are on the same. Just good.
Sing along.
Just good.
Sing along.
Just good.
Dedicated to the preservation of the motion of hip. Y'all feeling that? Yes, Justice by Dumpster Funk. They got a brand new thing coming out. And don't forget, Bootsy Collins, Power of the One. Y'all go out and get that. Creepin'. They did a version, If You Want Me to Stay. Branford Marcellus is on there. Victor Wooten is on there. Bootsy Collins, Larry Graham, George Benson is wide open. The Power of the One. Go get it. This is a funk show, so we always going to talk about the funk, Bubba. All right. Mark, bring us back, baby.
Yeah, I'm back here and everything. I was just looking up some things, and I saw that there was a major birthday that we should have given a shout-out to from yesterday and everything, and that was the great Michelle Obama. She was celebrating her birthday on yesterday, and definitely an amazing lady, and definitely one that was kind of the wings behind.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Yep. I wonder what her and Barack did for their birthday.
Good question. That's a good question. I ain't got no idea. You know, they got to do things slightly with the restrictions and everything. So I don't know that they went to a restaurant. Maybe they just chilled at home and took it easy, enjoying each other's company. That's what I think they probably did.
Probably. And you know what? They deserve that. They've served their time for this country. You know what I thought about too, right? I thought about, and here's somebody that I don't want to forget in this political thing that we've had. I was thinking about getting in touch with Bill. So if you could drop him a line, see if he wants to drop on for a minute, right? I'd love to have him. And I know you would love to have him because I know you want to talk about some things too. But yeah, but you know what? While you're doing that, right? And, you know, I just wanted to ask you something. What do you think Hillary is thinking now? She's the forgotten player in this play. She had her lines early and did her spot and, you know, went through it. And now we at the third and fourth act of this particular movie. I forgot all about the Hillary character.
Yeah, it's like that character, like you said, in a movie that you lose somewhere in the middle of the movie that you don't remember anymore. But like I said,
I love Hillary. I didn't want her to lose. I did, man. I'm hurt. You know, she's like when you watch a movie, you know, you fall in love with one of the characters, and then all of a sudden they get a character you thought never would get hurt or killed or whatever. You're like, oh, you know, I got a moans for her, man. I'm like, come on, Hillary, please come back, say something. You can tell him I told you so.
Hey, you want Hillary to come back and join the party and everything? You just want her to come back?
Yes. Don't worry. Bill won't mind if I just take you out one time, Hillary. We go out, do the town up, and you can tell everybody I told you so, and I'll get you back.
I'm sure you will. By the way, we were thinking about this act and everything, and I just pulled up that they've got a lot of the things that Joe is thinking about doing, and I think that he's going to have his hands full doing a lot of great things. Like, I know he's definitely looking forward to, as I said earlier, repealing that whole mess that Trump did with the folks in the Latin American community, and they're going to try to let a number of folks get in that need to have citizenship. So he's definitely looking at repealing that. Some other things that he's done, he's looking at repealing as well. So there are a number of these things that were just a mess. So that's the only way we can put it, is they were a mess, and he's got to clean up that mess and all of that. So if you were in office, you got to go, well, two things. If we weren't in the middle of a COVID nightmare, do you think you would have tried to have gone up to D.C. to see Kamala and Joe get into the White House? We know a number of folks are going to do this virtually this time.
You asking me, would I?
Would you have gone if we weren't in the middle of this mess?
Yes. And not so much because I want to be around the violence and all, but only because I've never went to one. See, you went to one. I've never went to one. So I don't know. I have no idea what, without COVID, I think I still would have went not worrying about the violence because I'm not into that. I think that because I feel the obligation to my dad and mom, because I know they never went to one, even though they both marched and stuff, but they didn't go. There was no record. Maybe my relatives would know. At least I don't know. There was no record of anybody in the family ever telling me that they went there. But I think yes, if we weren't in COVID, even with the threat, I think I would go on the premise of this. As long as the threat wasn't heightened like it is now. Like, say if it was like back in the summer where it was just, mild protest, this and that, I think then I wouldn't be afraid, although that could easily turn into a Charlottesville. This summer, everywhere I was at could have easily have turned into that. but it didn't. But I think I would go for my daughters. That would drive me to go, just to show them, okay, no matter what, you got to keep going forward. So to answer your question, yes, if we were not in COVID, I would risk it, and I would go, not to stir up trouble, obviously, to go in peace, but only because since I have girls, 2 girls, and I also got family in Georgia too. But since I had girls, I think because of Kamala, being the first brown, black, Asian, Indian woman, and being the first woman vice president, and then being a woman of color, I think I would go for them. I wouldn't have them go with me, but I would go for them, and hopefully one day they can go, or maybe they'll be standing up there. Who knows? You know what
they
I'm saying?
might be the next president. I'm thinking that one of your daughters might be the first female president.
Hey, who knows? Stranger things have happened.
I think that would be great.
Look what we just went through. You know what I'm saying? Who would have thought that?
They are both amazing ladies. I think that they deserve this job, so I think that they're going to get it.
Yeah, I think so too, and it would be nice. It would do my heart proud. I tell you that. No matter where I'm at in the universe, I pop back in to see that. You
would pop back again just to see that. You'd be like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm back."
Yo, I have to make one final appearance like MC Hammer. You know what I'm saying? I had to make one final appearance before I go. Boom. You know who was ironic? Who actually pulled that off was James Brown.
Yeah.
Because, bro, I got to tell you, right? I was doing a gig, and it was New Year's Eve or either Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. But I got home, and I was by myself in the house, and it was late, right? And I saw that on TV, on CNN. I was like, what is going on? And they were doing it as respectfully as they could. But the memorial was in like the concert hall, wherever, down in Georgia. And James was there. And, I saw all his whole band, including Boosie, was there. And at first I was like, that's really strange. But it was a church ceremony, but it was a concert. Because James had, from what I heard, now again, I'm not quoting anybody. This was just the word on the street. James had always wanted to go out like that. So wow. He went out, and you go back and pull it up, bro. It's on YouTube. He went out.
I'm going to pull it up, but we've got another guest and everything, and she's actually looks like she's back home and everything. And she's not necessarily where she was before, where she was not feeling all that well. So how are you doing, Professor Kimberly? How's everything going?
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm just slowly recovering and wanted to come in and wish you guys a wonderful Sunday. And thank you for all of the great things that you're doing here.
No, we're definitely glad to do it. You're doing some amazing things with this network and everything. We were actually just reflecting on the legacy of Dr. King on Zack show and things of that nature. I was wondering what some of your legacies were of the great Dr. King, since Dr. King's holiday is actually going to be celebrated tomorrow. We know it's always celebrated on that third Monday, but I'd love to hear your reflections on Dr. King, Professor Kimberly.
Growing up, he was such a great inspiration. His death was so mind-boggling, I think, to everyone. My family, it was just heart-rendering. And the communities that I lived in, I mean, we all, it just, what he did, he changed the way we think about each other. Right? Yeah. He was a man of God, and he changed the way we look at each other. And that, to me, is everything. We don't need labels. We don't need to look at each other as a color, but as a person of God. And he was influencing that we all just need to be created, not created equal, but treated equal. And in that respect, I think mainly what he was trying to reflect upon is respect, right? Respect and love. And one of the things I want to really just focus on this year is no more hate. Our patriotism needs to be on heart. No more hate. No more fighting. No more pointing fingers. No more excuses. We need solutions. And this is what I think he wanted. right? No more excuses. We need answers and solutions. I want to say something. I think one of the my best MLK days ever in my life, there's a lot of them, but was last year. I felt like it was something I fulfilled by reaching out with the community and doing something. And I wish I had done it this year, but I just haven't been feeling well. But last year we hosted for the children in Tampa, Florida, NFL chess. And we got a lot of NFL players together, and we gathered children from everywhere. And it was in memory of Trayvon, in memory of MLK, and the NFL sisters helped sponsor this. And it was such a beautiful, amazing day. I think everyone said the same thing. And I'm just asking myself today why we didn't do it again this year. And you know what, guys? I'm going to commit next year, because you got to start a long time ahead. And I'm going to start working with the NFL sisters, and we're going to do it again because it felt really good. Like we had it set up so the kids, if they needed rides, they got rides. They could catch buses, I think, from their facilities. And they were brought to the university, and there was lunch there for them. They all had like a lunch box. Each one of them got a chessboard and chess kit to take home with them. And they got to play chess with an NFL player. And each NFL player sat up at different stations, and they would explain the different pieces of the chessboard, different parts of life, what's healthy for you. So it wasn't just about chess. It was about why we need to stay physically fit, why it's important to be financially fit, why it's important to maintain our mental fitness. Yeah. And these are things we don't really teach our children.
Yeah, that's true. We don't teach them enough. I know one of our great shows that we just started here is Learning Unwrapped, and Nancy's definitely been talking about the ways that we need to do better with teaching and things along those lines. And a couple of our other shows have been talking about that as well. I know we've got a couple of new shows. So, Kim, if you can tell our listeners a little bit about that, because I saw we've got Tawana has got her new show up and running, and we've also got the Swiss Impact Show, which actually I was impressed with Mr. Banerjee and his wife and the way that they're talking about investments and a couple of other shows. So if you can just share with our audience a little bit about the new things that we've got on tap here.
It's Svitlana. She is absolutely beautiful. Oh my gosh. I just love watching her on the screen. She's been on our show before. Two very passionate people about making impact changes, and they have Swiss Investment Impact, which is a lot of the faith investors. A lot of people don't know about the Faith Investment Foundation. I call it the Prince and the Knights of the Round Table because I think Prince Charles oversees it, and he will be, I think, from what I've heard, on the show. So, but anyway, yeah, cool show. Here's what's interesting. Seeing how this is kind of a producer round. Ben was talking with us and getting all excited about this, but he's never done TV interviews. And he goes, I just don't know if I can keep a conversation going for an hour. I go, Ben, it gets really good. Just treat it like a coffee shop visit. They're your friends anyway. Just, you're just having a visit and a conversation with them. And I think his biggest concern was keeping that dialogue going for an hour. Well, it went for an hour and a half if anyone watched it. And it was great. So, but we all run into that, right? Mark, you get into it. Zach, you get into that mode, and it's good. So, folks, that's when you know you've got something good. So Swiss Impact is great. Dr. Anthony's first show started, and I have to apologize. I haven't seen it yet. I think it airs tomorrow night. But we all know she's dynamic and gorgeous, right? So I just can't imagine what's going to come out of this, and I'm going to try to watch it today. But she is just vibrant with energy. She's one of the most intelligent women I have ever spoke with. And there's a lot, not to put any other woman down. I mean, she's got it together. And I just want people to know, man, that girl knows food. And if you get a chance and you have a child, let's see if, anyway, her book, if you've got it.
Got it right here.
He's got it.
I usually have it right where I can grab it, but I might have taken it into the living room for someone. But there you go, folks, at the Gator Park. I'm sure she's going to be putting out some other books, but what a wonderful woman. I think it's Monday nights is her show. We have, guys, tax season's coming, and we have Winning the Tax Game with Scott Estill. Now, Scott Estill is a former United States IRS attorney. He knows all the ins and outs of what they do. And let me tell you, the guy's on a mission to make sure that you get it right so that you don't get screwed. Okay. And a lot of times maybe we do something wrong and that causes us to get screwed. A lot of times they do things that aren't right. And if you've ever listened to Tax Time on Monday, you'll hear him tell you some of the things they do. Oh my gosh. I almost fell out of my chair last Monday when he mentioned some of the things that the prosecutors do against the people. And a lot of times it's not about right or wrong. It's about the thrill of the kill. It's just about the thrill of the kill. So in kind of segueing this back to what's really important this week, which is Martin Luther King, these are people who are trying to bring you awareness, and so that you have the knowledge base to help yourself and make things right for yourself, which has been the goal of this TV station. It's been the goal of when Nick and I first started our first TV show, which is to close that gap between poverty and sustainability. And it not by lowering a bar, but by raising the bar. And the only way to do that is through financial literacy. And the greatest gap is because of the lack of literacy and access to literacy.
Yeah, I know we were talking before earlier, and I had mentioned about MLK and everything. And I told Mark in February, which I'd like to invite you on that show that I actually do, because I feel it needs to be addressed. Yes, I was saving a good one for you, February, but in on a Sunday. Yes, but we're going to be talking about black on black crime. So just really quick, not about that, but if Martin Luther King were able to come back right now and say something to the world, what do you think his message would be?
Give me a second here. I think so just remembering all of his speeches, when he would either get inspired from just being upset by the way things were happening to right down to where he knew the best way to handle things. I think he would say what message hit me yesterday. And it came to me like in this big splash that heart, not hate. Just we have to have our patriotism served by our heart, not hate right now. We need to calm down. We need to stop fighting each other, stop the feud, and focus on our problems and fix them. Because you can't fix problems if you're trying to one-up each other and just fight each other. So I think, and it was really weird, this heart, not hate has just been repeating in my head over and over. Maybe it's all the medication.
No, it's a very profound message, and it's a good message, and we need more of it and everything. I know one of the things that I'm glad that I'm seeing that Biden has already said that he's going to do is that on day one, so I guess that'll be on the 20th or the 21st, he is rejoining the Paris Accord. So I'm glad to see that we're actually going to try to be more of a global community, which is what I thought we should have been all along, because we've been trying to be too much of an isolationist. So I'm glad to see that we're going to join the Paris Accord and try to connect with a lot of our other international friends and allies, and also have conversations where we feel that our adversaries are doing wrong or doing things that we don't approve of things of that nature. But I think that we're going to see more of this global community that I know you oftentimes talk about on a regular basis, Kim, and everything. One of the things I was curious about, if you could just share with us, and this is kind of a pivot in our conversation, is, Zack had mentioned it earlier, I unfortunately had some other things going on, so I could not make the memorial, but I do know that Mike had passed away. If you could talk a little bit about what his legacy is to the network and all of that, because I know that Zack did give him a shout out, but like I said, I know that some of our folks that are watching now may not know who he was and what his importance was to the network. So I'd like you to share a little bit about that.
Oh, well, I do watch it if you get a chance. It wasn't a very long memorial, but very deep and genuine. Mike was a good friend of Nick Palaveda's for 47 years. They first met playing chess. And, Mike's story is that he beat Nick. So, but Mike was one of the producers at IBM TV. He actually was responsible for launching our official pilot for IBM TV. Though I say we launched our first live show, which was World News, March 7th. But the first pilot to really test run was Walter Football, fantasy football. Mike pulled that show together. So it was really nice to see Walter yesterday. Walter showed up as well. That was 20 shows. That was the first time I ever did a series like this. That was 20 shows we'd done every week from the beginning of football season to the Super Bowl. And it was intense work, let me tell you. It was a 3-hour-a-week show broadcast. It was post-air, so we did post-editing. So it was a lot of work. It was a lot of prep work. Michael, everybody saw him probably as a goofball, which, when I first met him, I met him at dinner with Nick. And you see this goofy, loving, funny guy who makes a joke out of everything. But when you work with him, he is dead serious. He is homework. He researched just profoundly. But chess and football, what I know of him, because we worked so hard together in the trenches on the show. So you get to know a person, like they talk personally. He had 4 loves in life that I knew of. That was his family, but mostly his grandson named Caden, who was attacked by dogs a few years ago and suffered greatly from that. But he very, very near and dear to his heart. So Caden was always something that we spoke about. Then, of course, there was God and his country. And then football, fantasy football, and chess. Now, I don't know which one came first with him. If you talk to the chess community, it was chess. If they talked to the fantasy football community, it was fantasy football. But he was so world renowned in the chess community. I'm talking grandmasters from all over the world would reach out to him and consult with him. So it was nice to hear the loving remarks from everyone. And there's a clip that I managed to find, and I'll see if I can find it again. Maybe we can play it here. And it kind of summed up Mike's feelings for what he was doing with us. And it was one of the Walter Football shows where he said, you know what, I want to thank Nick Palaveda for giving me this opportunity and doing this show. But I want everyone to know that Nick, told me I get to pick who I get to do with the show. And my first pick was Walter Football. So it kind of summed up, it just felt good to play that so that those two could hear how much he appreciated them. And I'm going to miss him. He was a handful. I would tell everybody he was a handful because he was just full of life. And if he just had this energy. One day, I'm going to share this story now. He got so excited about Walter Football show that he was bouncing in his seat. Like it was just before it started. He was just getting energy and bouncing and getting excited. And I kept going, Mike, you're going to fall. Mike, you're going to fall. Boom. And Walter and I are like, oh my God. And he bounces back up like a kid. I'm okay. So, but what people don't know is the reason why I guess my heart just it hit me so hard. It would hit me hard anyway. Is he had a lot of challenges in life, and society can be extremely hard on you and helping you get back on your feet. But he never gave up. And one of the things that inspired me most is I knew what his challenges were. But no matter what was going on in the background, when he showed up on that screen every week, you didn't know it. You didn't hear it. You didn't see it. All you saw was his happy smile, his energy, and his passion for the things he loved. And I think that says a lot about no matter how bad things are, just keep looking to do some of the things you love to do. And, but thank you for asking. So I want to come back and circle back and ask you guys, if you had a chance to talk to Martin Luther King, what would you ask him? We'll start with Mark.
I had a chance to ask Martin Luther King something. Well, I was telling Zack earlier that I wrote when I was in high school about where the legacy of Dr. King was in the late 70s compared to when he died, and also when he made that famous speech and everything. So I think the first thing that I would ask him is, how far does he think we have come in terms of where he would have liked us to be in 2021, and what kind of steps does he think we should have made in order to get where he would have liked us to be? Because I don't think that he would be satisfied with where we are on a number of issues, whether that's race relations, whether that's gender equality, whether that's issues around a number of other things that he was very much concerned about and things of that nature. A lot of folks don't know this, but he was also not a big fan of some of our military kind of exploits and things of that nature. He was actually very much, as you alluded to earlier, Kim, very much of a peaceful person, and he was not a big fan of the Vietnam War or a number of other kind of escalations that we had been part of and things of that nature. So I'd like to know what he thought even of our relationship to our global community, because I do think that he was very much in tune with trying to make sure that we were understanding not just our society in the South or even in all of North America, but how it impacted the entire globe. So I'd like to have a conversation with him about some of that kind of things, and even seeing who some of the people that he has seen come up in his as he's gone on into heaven and everything, but who some of those people that he has seen that he admires, that he's been watching from heaven. So that's really some of the questions that I would ask.
Oh, I like that one too. I like that one. Zack, what about you?
I think if I had a chance to ask Martin Luther King if he came back today, that's what we're saying, right? If he came back today, okay.
Yeah,
I would ask him when he thought about putting his life on the line time and time again, and he understood that Medgar Evers had already been taken out, and a lot of the musicians and things. That were like Sam Cooke and people like that were getting mysteriously killed. I think I would ask him why did he, and I know God chose him for this mission, but I would ask him, why did he not try to work more with groups like the Black Panthers and Malcolm X, the Muslims, at the time that were considered radical, but they really weren't radical. So it's almost like there was a division within the Black community. And I always wanted to ask all of them this: why could they not figure it out and work together for one common cause? Later on, of course, Malcolm changed his views. Later on, of course, we know now the Black Panthers weren't this evil organization. But Martin, he had the world. He had won the Nobel Peace Prize, and still, and I don't know if this is a problem with just in our DNA as Black people, we could not figure out how to put that complete circle of unified Blackness together, because there were ministers that didn't agree with Martin, but they would still march with him. There were people like Malcolm that didn't agree we should be nonviolent. But at the same time, that was a force. And I would always want to ask him, do you think, Martin, had you kind of mended those fences, would it have made a difference to now about how we still are divisive in our own Black community? And this has nothing against the world community. But from that point, I would want to know, because Barack had that same type thing. But Barack was able to do it. And I don't know if it's because of the time that Barack was there, but with Martin back then, I really think he should have tried harder, because when he went, like Mark said, when he spoke about the Vietnam War, which is why most people believe he got killed, he was talking about all races. And that was the one thing that all races agreed on, including all the black community. No matter what they thought about Martin, if you were Muslim, if you were Black Panther, or if you were just hanging out with Martin, you all said, hey, the war is wrong. So I would ask him, like, okay, why? How? Why didn't you kind of help? Because they would have listened to him if he would have tried. That's all I'm saying. I know they would have, because he was the one. He was above Malcolm. You know, he was the beaky. That's why he has a statue. You know, right? So he was the one. And I would ask him, yo, Martin, come on, man, why didn't you bring them all? You know, that's what I would ask him.
And you know what I loved about Martin Luther King was everyone loved him. Yeah. I don't know of anyone who hated him. I'm sure there were, but you never, ever hear a hated word about him. Not from the white, not from the black, not from any color, not from any gender. I don't hear it. Have you ever heard a bad story about him?
Yeah.
I haven't. Or maybe if I did, I cut it off. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe people did, and I'm just like, oh, that ain't true. But there's something, I agree with you. I think that's a good statement, because that's a learning. That's a learning curve.
Yes, exactly. And I think because he was in such a position of power, obviously, you know, nobody wanted him to die except for the people that were behind that. And that's their own burden they got to carry. But it makes me angry when I see young black men and women and young minority women walking around doing some of the things they're doing. And in my mind, I'm thinking, but don't you understand? Like, there are people of all races that need you now. I don't need you to be on the corner doing what you're doing with your pants down. Right now, I need your help. I need you to go help that person. I need you to go help that person. Everybody, we need all the troops. Like you said before, Kim, we need a global movement. So whatever you're doing, stop it for a minute if you can. I'm not knocking you. You want to wear your pants down to your ankles? Do that next year. This year. You know what I'm saying, Mark? This year, can you pull them up for me, please? Because that's
I agree with you.
Just pull them up for me. You know
I definitely agree with you. We definitely got to have folks have some respect.
Them with heart.
Respect.
It's hard, because I think I'm struggling too with some of the things that I hear that's going on, right? And I'm trying to understand, why does everyone want to fight? Why does everyone want to make this? Why don't we just, I mean, because that fight isn't helping you, it's helping one person. And I think it was Roosevelt who said this, that patriotism isn't about one president. It's not about one person.
Yep.
Patriotism is about all of the people. And that's where we need to get to, is we need to be about all of the people, not about me, not about just that one president, but about how we can all help each other. And the only time I've ever seen it in my lifetime is 9/11. 9/11 is the only time when I saw everyone put their arms down against each other and said, let's work together. And I would hate to have to see something like that happen again to pull us together. I feel this intensity that's just making me unnerved of
all of us, Kim. All of us have this anxiety that was already there for some other stuff. You're right.
Exactly.
I'm glad you said that, because it is so true. It's just like overwhelming. It is, and I feel you, sweetie. I get it.
No, and a lot of folks
I don't even want to see the inaugural day come. I'm scared of what's going to happen, because there's so much uprising of people who have no fear to raise whatever sword they're raising, and instead of just saying let's put this down and this is what I would do if I was Biden right now. I would just say, you know what? Instead of telling me you wanted Trump in office right now, tell me what your problems are. Yes. Give me a list. Give me a list from your group, Give me a list of what you want fixed. Let's all have tea next week and talk about it.
I would too. Invite them to the White House. Like, not crazy ones, but people like you, people like me, people like Mark that simply want to say, hey, let's try to work with these people, because if we don't, they're still going to be crazy. Now, we know certain of them are always going to be that way, but I think this could be fixed, and it could have been fixed by the person that kind of sprayed it on. He had and I was telling Mark this, he actually had the perfect opportunity to actually do some real good, because he could have simply said, listen, let's not do this. Let's come together. And he really would have had a better legacy as a president. He really could have been a decent president had he put his mind to it, and not all of this other stuff. And believe me, I don't like him, but if he had simply said, okay, enough is enough with this, even before Charlottesville, he didn't have to stir that up. Because the one thing that I think people are forgetting, they were going to vote for him anyway. He didn't have to do none of this. He already had the people that were going to vote for him. So he was not going to get any extra votes by making this insane thing happen. That's what bothers my mind. I was like, dude, you already had half the stadium. So what's the problem?
It's all about ego and watching people uprise for you, I think. But another thing he could have done, so the saddest thing I see is that he had it in him to execute. He had executions reinstated, and we executed more people in his presidency than any presidency or any combined presidency in our history. Okay, in our history, and then from July until the last day he was, I guess, considered legally in office, he executed 13 prisoners, and it was the last day he executed the 13th, which there had been stays of execution, including from the judges, submitted so that they can continue reviewing. And he denied it and executed that man on his very last day as he walked out of office. So to me, that's a lot of hate and anger, as opposed to how can we reform and fix. And one of the things he could have done to left behind a great legacy, and I think every president should think about this, is we're always going to have some kind of divide the way our country is. So the next president that won might not be one that's, might be a conflict. Just leave a list of things you want done. These are the things that we would like to see done, a compromise of some kind, of cooperate. But this is a list that we'd like to leave. Okay. Whether it gets done or not, you did it for your people. You did it. You can even do it and read it out.
Yeah.
And hand it to them. But to me, that's leaving behind your legacy. That's leaving behind what you wanted to accomplish for the people that you felt like you were working for. But what I'd like to see happen is some sort of unity, that we're working for all of the people, not the rich, not just the poor. And I'm going to say this, and Shaq has been doing this for me occasionally when I'm not there. But it's the middleman that's getting spread thin to the point he can't do anything, because the middleman is the one who really actually takes care of the poverty. Our dollars actually go, and we serve the rich in order to take care of ourselves, right? So when you've got this going on, the middleman can't take care of it. You're going to break the foundation of this country. So I really want the focus put back on helping the middleman sustain, stop putting the weight on their shoulders, and giving them some breathing room. Because right now, some of the laws that I've been reading are putting more weight on the middle, hardworking people like us, right? The people, and not to say the rich people aren't working, not to say the poverty aren't working, but there's no balance there anymore. So
it's always been like that. It's that's how, like, and Mark and yourself, Kim have brought this up, because when you don't have that foundation, you can't focus on anything else. And a lot of people on both, and I hate to say sides, but they've made this thing a side thing. And I'm in the middle with you guys, right? But I'm like, I'm in the middle because I know better. It's like I can't go around like with a machine gun in the Starbucks. That ain't going to really help me. And at the same time, I can't stand on the corner in East Durham where the crackheads are and sell drugs. Those are just common sense things. And I love you said this, Kim. Make it simple. Keep it simple. Like, yeah, okay, here's a list of things that I need because I live in economic challenged places. And here's a list of things I need because I feel like the country has turned its back on me because I'm a white guy. And then just let's sit down and compromise, because there has to be, or that maybe there had to be some compromise at some point for us to even get here.
Yeah.
Years ago, this would have been illegal. Mark and I would have been able to sit and chat with you. So there has been something done. Things are getting done. We just are just covering it with hate and evil. And it drives me crazy because I'm in the fourth quarter of my life. I'm 63 years old almost. So, I ain't got much time left.
That's what I tell people.
Zack, you're going for 250. Don't try to fool us. We're only.
Yeah, right. The alien in me, maybe. But, this body's like Kim said before, is tired, Jack. I'm tired, Kim. Tired.
No, I understand, and we definitely have our tired moments and all of that. I did want to give a shout out to a film that came out recently and everything that was actually talking about some of this legacy stuff. Not so much about Martin Luther King, but definitely some other legacy figures. And that's the film that came out called One Night in Miami, which is a fictionalized meeting between Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and Sam Cooke in a room at the Hampton House in February of 1964, celebrating Ali's surprise title win over Sonny Liston, and it was actually done by Regina King. So it actually talks about a number of the things that were going on in the 60s and everything. And then it says at the end, it says, in the aftermath of the night in Miami, while Clay changed his name to Muhammad Ali, and Malcolm's life is thrown into chaos as he suffers the consequences of his split with the Nation of Islam. His house is firebombed, but he completes his autobiography. Cook debuts A Change Is Gonna Come, which is actually one of my favorite songs, on The Tonight Show. Jim Brown leaves the NFL to pursue his movie career, and the film ends with a title card with a quote from Malcolm X about the inevitability of martyrs for the cause, noting that he was assassinated on February 21st, 1965. So we have seen that martyrs oftentimes do happen for the cause, as you actually alluded to earlier, Zack, and everything. So if you haven't had a chance to check that movie out, I'm hearing great reviews about it. I know I need to go watch it as well, but it definitely looks like it is a...
I heard about that. And I'm glad you brought that up, because Jim Brown left at the peak of his career and peak performance. Jim Brown was a sociology major at Syracuse, and people don't know. Jim Brown said he did that because at the time, Black people didn't have opportunities in film. It was Sidney Poitier, Lena Horne, Sammy Davis Jr. That was it. Maybe Harry Belafonte here and there. So he said he had that opportunity. He wanted to show people he was more than just, and this are his words. He said, I'm more than just a dumb jock. I can do other things. And it also gave people the opportunity to look at like the hero thing, which people needed. Because when Sidney Poitier, the one thing I remember, and I'm glad you brought up film, Sidney Poitier was so influential in every person's life, Black or white, because he was such and I think he's gotten awards. I'm sure he's gotten the White House, humanitarian award or whatever that award is, whatever. I'm sure, because his movies were so, and I was a kid, they were so profound. Raisin in the Sun, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. He broke through some stuff. And this is what, again, it always brings you back to why you got your pants down. You've had people that had to struggle. Come on, don't do that. Like, you know your history, right? So he broke through some stuff. And I remember watching Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, right? And I'm like, whoa, they allowed this on Hollywood? And it just goes to show, right. I said they allowed this. It just goes to show perseverance and what some special angels can do. Angels, man, they're everywhere. They're all around us. Kim, you're an angel. Mark, you're an angel. They're all around us. You never know. You never know what's inside of you. But I'm glad you broke that up, because that's pretty cool. I want to see that movie.
I want to watch my favorite movie is number 42 with Jackie Robinson. I love that movie. I think he was another inspirational person in our life. And I know Martin Luther King was, but I think that there were a lot of people, like you're saying, who broke out of the mold and stepped up to the plate to make these small changes we needed. And so that's, always another great movie that I just love watching, because there's a lot of suffering that people go through to get to where they are. Everybody thinks they're standing there with their trophy or their award or prize, and it was a cakewalk. And these stories tell you it wasn't a cakewalk, right? That there were a lot of challenges. I want to share, if I can, that video clip that I played of Mike on Walter Football. Is that okay?
Yeah. Please.
So it's just a quick few minutes. I'll cut it. Seconds, actually. I'll cut it off when it's done, but let's see if I can share. I'm not used to not having a dashboard, so bear with me.
Goes up to Mike. We love you, Mike. I never met you, but I love you nonetheless.
Well, I think you would have really liked him. I loved his voice. Can you see it?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to play it. Is it full screen?
You're not full screen yet. You got to do full screen on your side.
Oops.
There you go.
Hold on.
There you go.
Is it full screen? Okay, Here we go. All right, here we go.
Up where they have a weak schedule or tough opponents coming up, and then I would maybe try to buy low on those guys, but I would definitely not sell low.
Well, I've got to thank Nick Palavita for giving me the chance to do this show for IBM TV, and he allowed me to pick any partner I wanted in the world. And my first choice, I'm so glad you joined us, Walter. I've been reading Walter's column and his WalterFootball.com for years. It's funny. It's got great information. But this week, you really, this is why you're the best. I don't understand why you're not working for ESPN yet. But you watched the game tapes twice, and you noticed something watching the game tape again about my quarterback. And if you're right, not only is that valuable information, it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah, it was troubling because I had the pickers.
Anyway, I'll stop it there. That kind of summed up Mike, and the how he would always just tell somebody how much that he appreciated what they did. But
he definitely did that. I know that y'all had me direct his show, I think, once or twice, and I just in a couple of times that I worked with him, and I only got a chance to meet with him once or twice. I definitely got that impression that he had that kind of strong spirit, and definitely appreciated the folks that were behind the scenes working with him. Because I remember I even got an email from him afterwards where he was talking about how much he appreciated the work that I was doing, and I think he was looking forward to doing a couple of more shows, but then things didn't quite work out in that regards and everything. But he definitely was very much interested in the kind of connection we had, because I'm a fantasy football person as well. So definitely I only had a chance to talk to him maybe once or twice, but I definitely felt a kindred spirit. So definitely felt a kindred spirit with him.
Just hearing you guys talk about it, like, I understand, and that's why I always say I'm grateful to you guys, IBM and Nick and Kim. Not only because, see, legacies are always built on the backs of somebody else, you know. And I never met this man, but yet, had he not been instrumental into helping you guys build that platform, to build this platform, I would be able to do this. So again, I'm always grateful. It's amazing. And just watching that will inspire me even more to do better for this show, only because I always want to do the best. And there may be times now when I may not feel it. I'm always think of that and be like, oh, well, this man was the beginning. He's the cement block of it, you know. I appreciate you showing that. But real quick, I just want to share this really fast about Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King told the girl that played Star Trek, the black lady, she didn't want to do it after the first season.
Right.
And she called him. She said, Dr. King, I want to leave the show. He said, no, you can't leave the show. She said, why? And he said, because you're the first black woman in space.
Right.
And she said for that reason, because she thought the show was silly. She was a serious actress, and she thought the show was silly. And she said for that reason, she continued to do Star Trek. Because Martin Luther King.
Awesome. She was my rock star.
Yeah. She wanted to leave the show. He told her not to.
I know. I want to segue just real quick back. I'm glad you brought that up. Green Bay Packers was Mike's team. And I know
remember
they
that.
are on a roll. So who knows? Maybe from heaven, he's there.
Maybe Mike is up there.
Right?
He might be. I hope they get it for him.
So
I
want to say, Mike, I hope that they go all the way to the Super Bowl this year for you. And, I tell you what, you're right, Zach. I learn from other people. And Mark, I want to tell you something. Mike told me after he did the show a few times, because you know how hard it is to get regular people on consistently. Right. He goes, man, I tried to talk by myself for an hour. I don't know how you guys do it. He was like, because we do. Sometimes we know we have to get on there. Mark does it. We got to just keep the air alive. And he said it's very, very hard. So he respected all of you for your ability, because that's something that you just learned to do. And he said that it was quite the challenge. And so he respected all of you for doing that. He watched a lot of our shows and learned from us. So absolutely. I think we were learning from each other.
That's cool.
Yeah, definitely, we were learning from each other, and I know we're ready to wrap it up and everything because we're almost at that hour mark. Might go a little bit over, but I was going to share something with Zack and everything that I think he'll get a kick out of, and then I might just play a little bit of a clip of the other Martin Luther King speech that I'm a big fan of, which is where do we go from here, community or chaos, and all of that to end everything. But what I was going to share with both you, Kim, and you, Zack, is I've told y'all before that I've been part of the Daybreaker community and everything. And one of the gentlemen called me up and he sent me an email text because he's actually got a children's book as well that he's putting out in the fall. And he said that he's got a crazy request for me if I'm down for doing it and everything. But it's part of his website, which is called clapon2and4.com for his upcoming kids book, Clap on the 2 and 4, which is coming out this fall. He's looking to record the world's longest version of Old MacDonald Had a Farm. So he's going to try to have these different unusual animals and everything. So already he's got a platypus, goat, crab, toads, a sloth, a pig, a chicken, a donkey, and the more unusual, the better. But he's asked me to actually record something. So I will be adding my voice to this longest song that he's trying to create. And I think I'm going to either go with my dad's favorite animal, the turtle, since I didn't see turtles there, or gecko. But it'll be one of those two animals.
Turtle.
Exactly.
Turtle. Remember that movie? The guy played the turtle.
Yeah, so he's going to try to make this song. So he's asked me to do that. So that's something I'm going to try to. That'll be quite interesting and quite unusual because, like I said, they are kind of like Zack's funk community. They are a global community. So I imagine that these animals are going to come from all over the world, and who knows what kind of animals they're going to come up with.
Yo, that's funny.
The turtle,
that's good.
Crush. You can be Crush the turtle in Nemo. So my favorite. So yeah,
cool.
The turtle.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing that. Like you said, I think we've got to get it soon and everything. But I am going to play just a little bit of this speech from Dr. King, which is the where do we go from here, and all of that, and then that will wrap everything up. So we'll go over.
Heart, not hate.
That's right. Heart, not hate.
It's just resonating in me. So.
Dr. Abernathy, our distinguished Vice President, fellow delegates to this, the 10th annual session of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, my brothers and sisters from not only all over the South, but from all over the United States of America. 10 years ago, during the piercing chill of a January day and on the heels of the year-long Montgomery bus boycott, a group of approximately 100 Negro leaders from across the South assemble in this church and agreed on the need for an organization to be formed that could serve as a channel through which local protest organizations in the South could coordinate their protest activities. It was this meeting that gave birth to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. When our organization was formed 10 years ago, racial segregation was still a structured part of the architecture of Southern society. Negroes with the pangs of hunger and the anguish of thirst were denied access to the average lunch counter. The downtown restaurants were still off limits for the black man. Negroes burdened with the fatigue of travel were still barred from the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. Negro boys and girls in dire need of recreational activities were not allowed to inhale the fresh air of the big city parks. Negroes in desperate need of allowing their mental buckets to sink deep into the wells of knowledge were confronted with a firm no when they sought to use the city libraries. 10 years ago, legislative halls of the South were still ringing loud with such words as interposition and nullification. All types of conniving methods were still being used to keep the Negro from becoming a registered voter. A decade ago, not a single Negro entered the legislative chambers of the South except as a porter or a chauffeur. 10 years ago, all too many Negroes were still harried by day and haunted by night by a corroding sense of fear and a nagging sense of nobodiness. But things are different now. In assault after assault, we cause the sagging walls of segregation to come tumbling down. During this era, the entire edifice of segregation was profoundly shaken. This is an accomplishment whose consequences are deeply felt by every Southern Negro in his daily life. It is no longer possible to count the number of public establishments that are open to Negroes. 10 years ago, Negroes seemed almost invisible to the larger society, and the facts of their harsh lives were unknown to the majority of the nation. But today, civil rights is a dominating issue in every state, crowding the pages of the press and the daily conversation of white Americans. In this decade of change, the Negro stood up and confronted his oppressor. He faced the bullies and the guns, the dogs and the tear gas. He put himself squarely before the vicious mobs and moved with strength and dignity toward them and decisively defeated them. The courage with which he confronted enraged mobs dissolved the stereotype of the grinning, submissive Uncle Tom. He came out of his struggle integrated only slightly in the external society, but powerfully integrated within. This was a victory that had to precede all other gains. In short, over the last 10 years, the Negro decided to straighten his back up, realizing that a man cannot ride your back unless it is bent. We made our government write new laws to alter some of the cruelest injustices that affected us. We made an indifferent and unconcerned nation rise from lethargy and subpoenaed its conscience to appear before the judgment seat of morality on the whole question of civil rights. We gained manhood in the nation that had always called us boy. It would be hypocritical indeed if I allowed modesty to forbid my saying that SCLC stood at the forefront of all of the watershed movements that brought these monumental changes in the South. For this we can feel a legitimate pride. But in spite of a decade of significant progress, the problem is far from solved. The deep rumbling of discontent in our cities is indicative of the fact that the plant of freedom has grown only a bud and not yet a flower. Before discussing the awesome responsibilities that we face in the days ahead, let us take an inventory of our programmatic action and activities over the past year. Last year, as we met in Jackson, Mississippi, we were painfully aware of the struggle of our brothers in Grenada, Mississippi. After living for 100 or more years under the yoke of total segregation, the Negro citizens of this northern Delta hamlet banded together in nonviolent warfare against racial discrimination under the leadership of our affiliate chapter and organization there. The fact of this non-destructive rebellion was as spectacular as its results. In a few short weeks, the Grenada County movement challenged every aspect of the society's exploitive life. Stores which denied employment were boycotted. Voter registration increased by thousands. We can never forget the courageous action of the people of Grenada who moved our nation and its federal courts to powerful action in behalf of school integration, giving Grenada one of the most integrated school systems in America. The battle is far from over, but the black people of Grenada have achieved 40 of 53 demands through their persistent nonviolent efforts. Slowly but surely, our southern affiliates continued their building and organizing. 79 counties conducted voter registration drives, while double that number carried on political education and get out the vote efforts. In spite of press opinions, our staff is still overwhelmingly a southern-based staff. 105 persons have worked across the South under the direction of Jose Williams. What used to be primarily a voter registration staff is actually a multifaceted program dealing with the total life of the community from farm cooperatives, business development, tutorials, credit unions, etc. Especially to be commended are those 99 communities and their staffs which maintain regular mass meetings throughout the year. Our citizenship education program continues to lay the solid foundation of adult education and community organization upon which all social change must ultimately rest. This year, 500 local leaders received training at Dorchester and Penn community centers through our citizenship education program. They were trained in literacy, consumer education, Planned Parenthood, and many other things. And this program, so ably directed by Mrs. Dorothy Cotton, Mrs. Septima Clark, and their staff of 8 persons.
It's amazing.
Yep. And that's just some of the things that he was talking about that we're still dealing with even in this day. You heard him talking about voting rights. You heard him talking about Planned Parenthood. You heard him talking about a number of other things that were going on and everything. And that speech actually goes on for quite a bit of time, where he actually outlines some other plans of things that he would like to see happening in society. And unfortunately, a number of those things have not happened yet. So
That's
definitely,
right.
as you were saying earlier, Zack, we've got a lot of battles to go ahead and a lot more things that we've got to accomplish. But definitely we need to remember the legacy of Dr. King and try to do our part to try to carry on that great legacy of his and try to bring that kind of peace and unity that you were talking about earlier, Kim, because that's definitely what Dr. King was all about. So definitely I think that that just gives you a little bit of insight into his amazing words. Zack, did you have something you wanted to add as well?
I was just saying, and we can't forget Stevie Wonder, because had it not been for Stevie Wonder, Martin Luther King Day would not be a holiday.
No, he definitely loved this.
Yeah, prayers up to Stevie. I heard him going through stuff, but yeah, so he just put out a new Christmas song. But yes, please out there, for those of you that don't know Stevie Wonder and you only know him from now, go back and look at early Stevie Wonder. If you're listening around the world, Stevie Wonder was the spearheaded the march along with others to make Martin Luther King Day in this country a holiday. So Stevie, we didn't forget you. At IBM, we love you.
He resonates. We are the world. And just something to resonate about in that speech that just always hits me is let the buckets of your knowledge go deep into the well.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's deep.
I put a link up for the NFL chess day that we did last year on Martin Luther King. So if you want to go YouTube, I put it there so you could copy it and you can go watch it. It's pretty cool. It was a beautiful day. But anyway, but yeah, let your buckets of knowledge go deep into that well.
Yep, and that's what we try to do here on IBMTV.tv on a regular basis, and definitely I know that we do that on a constant basis, always adding new knowledge and sharing our world community, because we have some great folks that are doing some amazing shows here. As a matter of fact, I know that later on this evening we'll have the Talking Upstream guys, and we've also got Alexandria May coming at us from South Africa with her messages of hope and peace and all of that as well. So definitely Kim and the rest of the team, another amazing job that y'all have done in terms of assembling us here, and I definitely appreciate the great work that y'all have been doing and look forward to having some more great interviews and all of that. So I've already lined up some guests for this coming Monday, as well as for next week as well, and over the course of time. So definitely have some folks in mind already. Matter of fact, I think I've got to do a pre-recorded interview of one of them, because it's going to be a musician coming at us all the way from Hawaii. So I'm going to be doing that at around 4:00, but you'll hear that part of the interview on tomorrow's show, because it's going to be a pre-recorded segment of tomorrow's show that is going on and all of that. So definitely think that we had a great salute to Dr. King on the roundtable part of things, as well as what you did with funk music with Zack. So on that note, I'm going to bring up the lovely ambassador, because we do love seeing the ambassador get us on out of here and all of that, and then this plane and all of that. So here's the ambassador.
और ऐसे
you go. Music.
I love that.
All right, bro.